Welcome to the Medium in the Middle podcast. I'm your host, Stephanie, the medium in the middle. On this podcast, I share my journey as a developing psychic medium, as a Reiki master teacher, as an Akashic record practitioner, and anything else that's thrown my way. Join me every week. I release new episodes every Tuesday. Hello. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome to the Medium in the Middle podcast. I'm your host. My name is Stephanie. I am the Medium in the Middle. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. I am back after a week off. I'm feeling refreshed and renewed. We have a busy few months here at Medium in the Middle. I'm teaching 3 Reiki courses each month leading up to my house. So I'm excited to be teaching so much, but I also have to be very mindful of my self-care. So I needed a day off last week. This week, I'm really excited to talk about spirit again. I did a poll on Instagram and I got a lot of feedback that you guys want more spirit stories. So I have one for you today and I have a few other things to update you on spirit. But before we get into that, of course, we have announcements. Do you guys did you used to like announcements in school? I liked them. I don't know why. I still like announcements. So anyways, this week's announcements. The May meeting in the middle is now live. Very exciting. So every month I have a meeting in the middle where I host a group development circle and I pick a topic that I want to teach about. And for 1 hour, I teach about it. I talk about it. If you can make it live, great. If you can't, everybody gets the replay and everybody gets my presentation. And this month, I was being really inspired to talk about boundaries again because they have been coming up a lot. Like a lot. And I'm even going to talk about it in today's episode. But we're going to be talking about boundaries in the May meeting in the middle, how to set spiritual and personal boundaries. This is going to be, again, a workshop style where you're actually going to create the boundaries because some people don't know what they are. So in today's episode where I'm talking about boundaries, about spirit in my house, I also want you guys to know that I didn't all of a sudden have these boundaries out of nowhere. And just figuring out what you need is very important. In the same way, when I know after a Reiki course, I need to ground, I need to eat chips, I need to have a long shower, I need to go for a walk. I didn't know all those things until I tried it and figured it out. So come join me. It is on May 27th from 5 to 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. The link is available on my website, themediuminthemiddle.com. You can register there. I think that's the only announcement today. So, without further ado, the card pull for episode 81. So this week I looked at my cards and I thought, what do we need? And we need 2. So we need to go back to the OG, the original, Colette Baron Reed, the Enchanted Map Deck. I pulled card 35, Education. I don't think that I've ever pulled this card before. I'm not sure. Card 35, Education. Life is filled with lessons. Be teachable. Wisdom comes from participating in life, not just reading about it. This card suggests that you might not have enough knowledge about what you seek, the direction to take, your circumstances, or the nature of your inquiry. Important information is coming. Now is the time to go to school, ask a person who might know more than you, or find a teacher or a course of study so that you can more clearly understand what the next right action must be. Sometimes life unexpectedly sends you an unfamiliar school and you must learn by experience. Now is a time to be teachable, open to changing your preconceived notions. Be a student and be willing to state the most powerful mantra of all. I don't know yet. Interesting. So I asked, whenever I shuffle these cards, I always ask, what do we need to know, universe? And then I pulled a second card from the Wild Offering deck. And again, if you want to see these cards, I always post them on my Instagram at Medium in the Middle. Go check it out. But this one is called Service. You stop using the universe to try to get what you want and start asking love to use you. You offer all and want to be of service. Ironically, many desires become fulfilled without grasping or manipulation. Ooh, this is interesting. We were talking about this actually a few days ago in regards to manifesting, and you can't come from a place of lack. You can't come from a place of needing or wanting, not wanting, I would say, just needing and feeling like you're not complete. You need to be whole and you need to be complete for manifestations to really work. And once you kind of wrap your mind around that understanding, that's when like really big ticket items happen. So two different messages today. So I hope one of those cards resonated with you. Whenever I shuffle, I always ask, like, what do the collective need to know? What do the listeners need to know? And it's always interesting the messages that come through the cards. I know a lot of you use cards and you're always like, they're so accurate. And they are. They're such a fun tool. You don't need to have any skill set or anything to use cards. Just go out, buy one that resonates with you, and start practicing. Start using it. The card meanings are the card meanings. So there's not much to it. Let's jump into the episode because I want to talk about this week why spirits aren't allowed in my house. And I have a very strong boundary around this. And it's interesting because I haven't really had to remind myself of this boundary and it hasn't come up in a while. But I was teaching Reiki this weekend and I was right away like, I get this feeling of like woo, 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 where like the matrix is slowing down. And I was like, oh, someone's trying to get in. And I thought, okay, well, I didn't really set the boundary before the Reiki course, and I haven't really set the boundary in a while in my house. So, I'm just going to stop for a moment and tell Spirit that they can't bother me when I'm teaching. That is my hard boundary. When I'm holding space for my Reiki students, when I'm trying to teach, when I'm engaging, when I'm doing attunements, when all of these things are coming around, there is no way in anything that spirit is going to be sneaking through. Like, that is my absolute hard no. Like, full stop. Spirit cannot come through if I'm teaching. I'm doing work here, and there's absolutely no room for distractions. And especially when there's other people in the room, if I'm not going to read for everyone, it's not fair for me to deliver one message to one person just because their spirit was the most, I don't want to say annoying, but got my attention. So anyways, so I took a moment at the beginning and I was like, whoa, I guess I didn't set my boundary. Like, spirit, you can't come in. And I Reiki'd my walls and I kind of cleared for a moment. But I just noticed as the course went on, so Reiki level 1 is 2 days, and I kept getting distracted and like things kept happening around me. So a few things fell in my house and I kept like hearing things. So I kept turning and I was just kept whispering to myself, oh, spirit's here. And I could see my students laughing at me because of course you're registering for a Reiki course with a medium in the middle. There's gonna be ghosts. But usually I have them pretty much at bay. But this weekend it was like really unruly to the point where I was like, Steph, like get your stuff together. Like, you can't be interrupted 4 times during class. Like, this is completely inappropriate. You're teaching, because usually my boundaries are so strong. So after the course on Sunday, I was for some reason feeling super motivated to like clean my entire house. So I was vacuuming my house and mopping, and I was moving some furniture to vacuum behind it, which I usually don't do. I'm a lazy vacuumer. But I picked up this one little Buddha that I have sitting on the floor, and I found a dime sitting behind it, which is like behind a bench. And I laughed because I was like, oh, that's spirit leaving me a little message. And I was like, they were probably throwing money at me earlier in my course, and that's what I heard was these dimes flying. And then I laughed again because who uses cash? Like, I haven't used cash probably in the past year. And if I have used cash, I haven't used coin. Like, I just carry around my Visa. Literally, my single Visa is all I carry around. So I don't even know where this little dime came from. So I had a little chuckle and I like kind of laughed at spirit. And I was like, okay, all right, guys, you're here. I see you. And then I kept vacuuming, and then I was vacuuming behind my couch, which is like in the corner, and then I found another dime, and I was like, oh, so this was the other sound that I heard, because during the course, I heard one sound like in my kitchen area where my couch is, and then one sound by my door, which is where the Buddha is. So it's just like a really good reminder that like spirit is here, and they made me smile, and I was like, okay, and they reminded me to set my boundaries a little bit more. But I was thinking about it, and I was thinking about how like people were requesting for more like mediumship stories, and I was like, I don't have any. And I don't have any because my boundaries in my sessions have been so strong. And a lot of people haven't been asking recently, and I just feel like there's a shift. So I kind of want to talk about this shift because I used to get asked all the time, or in the notes, people would like, I'm open to everything, or they would tell me every beginning of the session, they would say, I'm open to anything, any messages. And I'd always be like, yeah, okay. And spirit would usually come through. But my boundary has been, ever since I released that podcast episode, that why I'm not doing mediumship, that they're not coming through. I'm like, guys, I'm doing Reiki or I'm doing PSYCH-K. They'd never come through during Akashic Records because I'm pretty much channeling the Akasha. But it's just really interesting with ever since I decided, the boundary has been respected. So I was thinking about this, and a few times people have asked, and it's funny, they've always asked, like I have a session called Combo, which is 30 minutes PSYCH-K and 30 minutes distance Reiki. And it's a busy hour. I mean, we're doing PSYCH-K and then we're moving to distance Reiki, and I'm explaining them both, and we're going through it, and we chat and we finish and we close and all these things. And a few times anyone was like, oh, any spirits show up? And I kind of chuckled, and I was like, no, like, do you think in between me doing PSYCH-K and, trying to make statements and then switching over to distance Reiki and then tuning in with your energy and then disconnecting and then explaining to you that I had any time to be like, hey, any spirits are here? And I remember I chuckled twice because twice someone asked me, and I was just like, no, like, there's no way that I was even paying attention to if spirit is here. And that's kind of how I've been living my life, is just not paying attention to if spirit is here. And it's been an interesting shift because someone was also talking to me and they were saying like, oh, you're medium in the middle, but you don't do mediumship. And I was like, yeah, but that doesn't take away from my development journey, and that I do still have this skill and this ability. And if I want to call on spirit, I can. But at this time in my development, what I know to be true is that I'm meant to be teaching Reiki. I'm meant to be doing Reiki and Akashic Records and PSYCH-K for appointment wise, but that's where my focus needs to be because that's where the collective needs it most. And it's showing in my courses selling out within 24 hours, and me doing 2 to 3 courses a month, from the past few months moving forward, trying to get more in so I could get more people into Reiki. And the collective is moving towards self-healing. And while I believe that mediumship is still very healing and the messages that come through can be very life-changing, I just feel that right now what is needed in the collective and what I need to be doing is Reiki. And I need to be teaching people how to do Reiki, how self-healing works, how they have the power, how everything is within, and almost like giving the power back to people so that they know that they can hold this in their own, like with Reiki and other things in their life as well. Like it doesn't just apply to Reiki, but I feel like that's more healing and more needed right now than mediumship. There's lots of people doing mediumship right now, and I'm happy to send anyone looking for mediumship to, amazing people that are around me. But right now I'm like, I know my focus needs to be Reiki. And it's interesting because whenever I get like kind of called and like to reflect, or when I'm looking at like, should I be doing mediumship? Should I, have a looser boundary with spirit coming into sessions? Should I maybe practice with people, just get it flowing, get it moving, start to work on it? Should I take a course in developing my mediumship? And I always come back to that hard no. And I'm like, no, I need to be teaching Reiki right now. I need to be investing in Reiki. I need to be doing my time in Reiki. And it's interesting because so many things line up, right? Like it's like my Reiki courses that are filling up. It's my Reiki appointments that are filling up. It's courses in Reiki that I want to take. And it's not necessarily where I want to put my attention into mediumship. So it's interesting, like the seasons and the reasons. And I know mediumship is still going to be a part of my life. I'm not saying I'm closing that chapter or that book in any way, but it's interesting in that like what you need to focus on and why. And it doesn't always make sense in the moment. Sometimes it's only in hindsight where you're like, that's why that happened, or that's why I did that, or that's why this was my focus. So that's where I'm feeling right now in the vibe of things. I'm loving Reiki. I'm loving teaching Reiki. I'm loving sessions of Reiki. It's just, you guys see me dancing around on Instagram talking about how much I love Reiki all the time. And it's interesting because, mediumship is still a big part of my development. It's still a big part of who I am, how I got here. Now my boundaries are, I know what my focus needs to be right now, but that doesn't mean that that's going to be that way forever. So this topic also came up because I was talking to a friend again about how we're kind of pulled in all different directions, and you have to be the decider of what you need, where you're going, what you're doing. And sometimes it is really hard to have that focus and to say, you know what, I'm putting this down so I can put all my focus on this, because I can't do it all. I can't do all of these things and be good at all of these things at the same time. I know I need to focus my attention in certain areas at certain times in my life. I also know that I'm young and I have a long road to go in this lifetime in my spiritual journey as well, and helping people and being a teacher and being a mentor for others and all of these things. And what I need to be offering to the world is going to ebb and flow and change through the years. But just be mindful of, in your life, are you juggling too many balls and dropping all of them? Or can you put something down and, do really good at something, one thing, and not feel guilty that you had to put a ball down in order to focus on that one thing in your hand? Because sometimes, especially with society, what we see online, we see people doing it all. We see people having it all. And it's like, well, how do they do that? And just really pull your awareness into what you're doing, what you need, what balls you need to put down so you can focus on that one thing and then be great at it. And then maybe look at adding or switching out the ball in your hand, Like, we don't always have to have this one road forever. And this comes up in the Akashic Records a lot in regards to, like, what am I meant to be doing? What is my purpose? And I really, truly don't believe that we all have one purpose to come here with. We don't come here with one thing to do, a little checklist, and once that one thing is ticked off, we just, game over and die and restart. That doesn't make sense. Your purpose ebbs and flows and changes with you. Your purpose when you were 7 years old is going to be different than when you're 35 and 64. So I think we have to remember that and just really pull into our intuition. What do we need to be doing? What do we need to be focusing on? And allowing ourselves time in these phases of life, because they're phases, they're chapters, whatever you want to call it, but it's all very interesting as it's changing. So this topic came up in regards to, also, I talked about earlier, like the boundaries that I have, how I know what I need in regards to grounding. And yes, we all know, because I talk about it all the time, that I eat chips to ground and I go for a walk to ground, and I like to play with my rain stick for hours after a Reiki training, and I have to do all these things in order to regulate my energy. But what I want to remind you all is that no one told me that I needed chips and a rain stick and a walk, and I needed to clean my whole house, and I need a nap, and I need all these things. I had to figure it out, and then I had to add those layers. So I challenge you in your life to figure it out and figure out what layers that you need. Because yes, chips might work for you and they might not. You might need an apple. You might need sticks. You might need pine cones in your pockets. I don't know what you need, but you have to figure it out. And it's interesting because even with our path, you have to figure out what ball is going to be in your hand and what ball you're going to put down to focus on later. If you ask someone what ball you should be focusing on, then you're doing what someone else thinks is best for you. But you need to ask yourself what's best for you. And if you're saying, well, Steph, how do I know? Listen to your intuition. Tune in to your gut. You really have to start to understand your own language and follow it and trust it, because it will guide you where you need to go. But if you're not trusting that little push and that little pull inside you, then you're going to be looking outside of you for answers that you will never find. I promise you, you will never find answers outside of yourself. Everything you have and need is within you. You just have to ask the right questions. So can other people support you in this? Yes, because they can also ask the right questions and they can pull these things out of you. But it's funny, the Akashic Records will say, what if I told you your purpose in life was to come here and be a banker? What if you hated banking, but you just went and became a banker because that's what the Akashic Records told you was your purpose? It's like, well, no, people aren't looking for that as their purpose. They want to know something, grand. And what am I meant to be doing here? You're meant to be doing here whatever you want to be doing here. You're meant to focus on whatever you want to be focusing on. So put whatever in your hands right now you need to be focusing on, and put down whatever you can put down for later, or whatever isn't in your interest right now, or whatever isn't, supposed to be your main focus right now. For me, what's in my hands is Reiki, and it's a ball that I love and I hold, and I'm going to, hold on to it forever, but I had to put my mediumship ball down. Does that mean that I'm no longer a medium? No, I can still talk to spirit, but I don't have the need for it right now because I know my purpose is Reiki, and I know my purpose is teaching Reiki specifically right now to help those students learn that they have the power within. And like the biggest part of my Reiki trainings is empowering you to know that you have everything you need. At the end of the course, I have them write down these 3 sayings, and I say, write down in big letters, Steph says. Number 1, Steph says you're doing it right. Because sometimes in life we just need to be reminded that you're doing it right. So if you needed the reminder, take out a pen and a paper, write down in big letters, Steph says you're doing it right. So take that, use it towards whatever you're focusing on, whatever you're doing. You are doing whatever you're meant to be doing, so you're doing it right. I promise you. Even if it leads you to quote unquote mistakes or things you should have done differently or wrong, you're learning lessons, you're developing, you're growing, and that is your purpose. So this all stemmed from why I don't allow spirit in my house, but it's also so much more than that. It's so much more around development, around my boundaries, around what I need to be offering, around tuning into my intuition and, challenging you guys, the listeners, to do the same, because as I'm learning and going through all these things, I want to pull you along in this journey with me. And it's really cool and supportive when we have other people around us going through the same thing and we can be like, oh, I'm not the only one. Oh, that's not only me. So very, very interesting. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. I hope you got something out of it, but pull into your intuition, pull into Steph says you're doing it right, because you are. Even when it feels like you aren't, there's going to be a reason. And vision is always 20/20 when we're looking back. Sometimes when we're on the path, we don't know. So thanks for listening. I release new episodes every Tuesday. I will be back next week. We're not having another break. If you want to stay connected with me, follow me on Instagram at Medium in the Middle. If you want to book an appointment with me, Reiki, Akashic Records, PSYCH-K, themediuminthemiddle.com. I have online appointments available, held virtually via Zoom. I also have in-person available in Banff. Come see me in real life. We are open. And if you are an iTunes user, I would love and appreciate a rating and a review. It really helps me out in the podcast world, and it helps me towards my big, big goal of growing this podcast. So thank you for being here. If you haven't already, press subscribe. And I'll see you all next Tuesday. Have a wonderful week. Bye.